My name is Serena Klein. I'm 37. By day, I design propulsion systems for commercial spacecraft, actual rocket science. By night, I used to come home to a house that looked like it had been ripped from a celebrity home tour, and a husband who loved that fantasy a lot more than he loved reality. We met at a film industry networking event in Dallas. I was there because my aerospace firm had sponsored a local indie film. He was working the room like he owned it, my future husband Jared. Actor, charmer, professional, center of attention. Jared had this way of making everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. He laser focused on me, asked smart questions about my work, made jokes about having a rocket scientist on his arm. It felt flattering. Dangerous, but flattering. We got married a year later. On paper, it looked balanced. I was pulling in about $310,000 a year as a senior aerospace engineer. Jared called himself a working actor and claimed he made around $80,000 annually between commercials, background work, and the occasional indie. I never saw the proof, but I wanted to believe him. When we got engaged, I suggested a prenup. It felt logical, not romantic, but logical. I'd built my savings and investments long before Jared. He took it like a personal attack. "You're calling me a gold digger," he said, pacing our living room. "You don't trust me. Marriage is about partnership, not paperwork." His mother chimed in with teary phone calls about insulting her son's honor. His father gave me this disappointed stare at dinner, like I'd slapped the family name. I caved. I told myself I was choosing love over fear. I signed the marriage certificate with no protection. Biggest mistake of my life. The first couple of years were fine. We bought a house in a gated community north of Houston. I would have been happy with something modest, but Jared had a vision. He decorated like we were prepping for a magazine shoot. Velvet sofas, imported light fixtures, ridiculous art pieces that cost more than my car in college. When I gently suggested we could find similar pieces for less, he stared at me like I'd proposed living in a storage unit. "I have an image to maintain," he said. "Directors see where you live. It's all part of the brand." His brand came with weekly brunches with people who spent more on handbags than most people do on cars, monthly spa days that ran $500 a pop, and shopping trips where he'd come home with bags from boutiques I'd never heard of. Each item cost hundreds. He put everything on our joint credit card. When I asked him to contribute more, he shrugged. "Serena, we're married. Your money is our money. My money is my money, because I barely have any. That's just math." Somehow, his paychecks vanished into thin air every month before they ever touched our account. Mine kept the lights on. Around year 4, the tone shifted. Jared started working late. He said the industry was brutal. "If I'm not networking, I don't exist," he'd tell me, grabbing his keys. He'd come home at midnight smelling like expensive restaurants and hotel lobby perfume. When I asked how his day went, I'd get vague stories about producers, casting directors, meetings that might turn into something big. His phone became an extra limb, always in his hand, face down on the table, tilted away from me whenever a notification popped up. Our bedroom turned into neutral territory. Once a month, maybe. Whenever I brought up how distant he'd become, he'd sigh dramatically. "Serena, I'm exhausted. You think memorizing sides and running to callbacks is easy? I'm doing this for us." Somehow everything was my fault, again. So I did what I always do when things hurt. I threw myself into work. 6 months ago, things escalated. I started noticing charges on our joint credit card that didn't line up. A boutique hotel in downtown Houston. Multiple weekends. High-end restaurants in the same area. Upscale bars. Places you don't grab a solo salad and go home. I asked. Jared already had a script. "Producers like to meet in hotel lounges. It's private, casual, not threatening. That's just how the industry works." He even pulled up an article about networking in show business, highlighting lines about restaurants and hotels as second offices. He made me feel naive for questioning it. But a knot settled in my stomach and refused to leave. 3 months ago, he told me he had an overnight meeting with some out-of-town director. Early workshop Saturday morning, he said. Needed to stay close to the venue. We had set up a family tracking app years before, after Jared's car broke down on a highway, and he couldn't tell me where he was. We'd both forgotten about it, or so he thought. That Saturday morning, I checked the app. He wasn't at any studio. He was at that same boutique hotel downtown, the one with rooms starting at $450 a night. I stared at my phone for a full 10 minutes, hoping I was wrong, hoping there was some miracle explanation. There wasn't. At 9 a.m., I drove downtown and parked across from the hotel. I watched the entrance with the cold focus I usually reserve for stress testing engines. At 10:30, Jared walked out of the hotel. He wasn't alone. She walked out beside him. Tall, fit, expensive, effortless clothes, that influencer glow you only get from ring lights and sponsored smoothies. I recognized her from old photos. Talia, his ex-girlfriend from college, the one he once told me was history. They stood too close, laughing like they were the only two people on earth. Then he kissed her, not a cheek peck, a full, familiar kiss, his hand in her hair, her fingers on his chest, like she'd been there 1,000 times. She kissed him back like it was the most natural thing in the world. I felt something in my chest crack. 9 years of marriage. All the money I'd poured into his image, our life, his dreams. I didn't confront them. I lifted my phone, hands shaking, and took photos, license plate, timestamps, her face, his. Then I drove home and made coffee like nothing had happened. When Jared came back that afternoon, yawning about his early workshop, I nodded, asked him how it went, watched him lie to my face. That night, I slept next to him, staring at the ceiling, planning. The next week, I followed them. I took personal days from work and parked in dark corners of parking lots. I watched them check into hotels together, ate cold takeout while videoing them leaving restaurants. I built a quiet, devastating archive. Photos, videos, time-stamped maps of every lie. Then I made an appointment with a specialist, not just a divorce lawyer, a high-asset protection expert who'd been doing this for 25 years. She listened to everything, flipping through my evidence with calm eyes. "He's entitled to half," she finally said. "Texas is Texas. The affair makes him look bad, but it doesn't change the math much." I felt sick. "So that's it? He cheats and walks with half of everything I built?" She tapped her pen on her legal pad. "How attached are you to staying in Houston?" I looked at her. "Not very. Why?" "Because if you're willing to get creative, there are legal ways to protect premarital assets. They require perfect timing and careful execution, and they work best if you're already gone before he knows what's happening." She slid the notepad toward me. I skimmed the bullet points and felt a new kind of calm settle over me. Right around that time, something else happened. I got a message on LinkedIn from a Brisbane-based aerospace company. They'd been following my work on satellite propulsion systems and wanted to talk about a senior engineering position. An exit hatch, half a world away. The offer was real, about $220,000 Australian, leading their satellite division, working on cutting-edge projects. Just in another hemisphere. They gave me 3 months to relocate if I accepted. I thought about Houston, about the empty side of the bed, about hotel bills with my name on the card and his hand in someone else's hair. I told them I'd have an answer soon. Then I started moving, quietly. I began withdrawing cash from our joint account, small amounts, $500 here, $800 there. I told Jared I was trying a cash envelope system to help us budget better. He laughed and called me adorable. Within 8 weeks, I'd tucked away $45,000 in a fireproof safe at my office. I changed my payroll direct deposit to a new bank entirely, using my old pre-marriage apartment address. HR didn't blink. "Security reasons," I explained after someone tried to clone my card. My premarital investments and savings went next. With my attorney's connections, I worked with financial specialists who handled international asset protection. Everything was legal, documented, taxed properly, and very far from Jared's reach. I left enough in our joint accounts to avoid suspicion. He never looked at those statements anyway. He only cared about the credit cards. In our bedroom, I found the platinum Eternity band I'd bought him for our 5th anniversary. 3 small diamonds and a band he loved to show off, claiming it was an heirloom from his grandfather. A complete lie. I'd bought it myself. I held that ring for a long moment, then slipped it into my pocket. Not to sell it, just to keep something that was actually mine. When everything was in place, I accepted the job in Brisbane. Start date, 6 weeks. Visa, approved within 3. 2 weeks before I left, Jared announced he was going on a guy's trip to Cancun with his gym buddies. The trip cost about $3,000. I smiled and paid for it with our joint card. Perfect timing. The morning he left, I checked the tracking app. He wasn't at the airport. He was at Talia's apartment complex. 2 hours later, the app showed him driving south, toward a beachfront resort in Galveston, not an airport. While he sent me fake photos from Cancun, I packed 2 suitcases, important documents, essentials. The rest could stay. On the kitchen counter, beside his precious espresso machine, I left a folder. Inside, printed photos of him and Talia, hotel receipts, bank statements showing a year of charges for his affair, divorce papers already filed, no dramatic letter, just facts. Then I locked the door behind me, turned in my keys at the leasing office, and headed for the airport. By the time Jared came home from his Cancun trip, I would be somewhere over the Pacific, disappearing into a life he'd never touch. I didn't look back. When my plane touched down in Brisbane after 15 hours in the air, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Oxygen. Real oxygen. The kind that fills your chest without tasting like anxiety. I spent the next 3 days settling into the small coastal house I'd rented in Mululaba. Clean walls, ocean breeze, no memories of fake brunch friends or boutique hotel lies. My luggage consisted of 2 suitcases and a safe full of cash, but somehow it felt like I'd arrived with everything I needed. By Monday morning in Texas, my disappearance detonated. I knew the exact moment Jared stepped inside our Houston house because my phone, my new Australian phone, began vibrating nonstop, displaying a number I didn't recognize anymore. Then came the flurry. 17 missed calls, 11 voicemails, 32 texts in the first hour. I didn't listen to any of the voicemails. I didn't need to. I could imagine the entire emotional progression. Confusion, anger, panic, bargaining, rage. While Jared spiraled, I drank coffee on my balcony overlooking the ocean. My attorney emailed. He's been served. The evidence hit him hard. He's panicking. I nodded to myself. Of course he was. The folder. Monday morning, Jared must have walked in expecting great lighting, perfect angles, and all his plants still alive. Instead, he found empty bedroom, missing documents, keys on the counter, and the folder. The folder with 200 plus photos of him and Talia, time-stamped tracking records, financial statements proving he'd used our joint money to fund his affair, divorce papers filed while he was lying on a beach in Galveston with another woman. He apparently went silent for 15 minutes. Then he started calling. He drained our joint account in 3 days, about $35,000. My attorney laughed when she sent me the update. That's all he'll ever get from you, she said. She was right. The world finds out. A week later, screenshots started floating through my social media circles, even all the way to Australia. Photos of Jared and Talia checking into hotels were posted anonymously. Videos of them leaving restaurants circulated. Someone even uploaded the boutique hotel receipts. I didn't leak anything. I didn't need to. Cheaters always create their own audience. Talia's influencer brand crashed almost immediately. Her supplement sponsors pulled contracts. Her gym clients canceled sessions because their wives didn't want the homewrecker trainer around. Eventually, the gym cut her entirely. Jared lost 3 acting opportunities within a month. Casting directors don't like drama unless it's on screen. It was poetic. The ring incident. Then came the ring. An email forwarded from my attorney made me choke on my tea. Half laughter, half disbelief. From Jared. Subject, stolen heirloom. Serena stole my grandmother's ring. It's a family heirloom worth over $50,000, 3 generations old. I demand it be returned within 48 hours, or I'm pressing theft charges. I almost wished I could have seen my attorney's face. She replied with one line. Please provide provenance, insurance records, and proof the ring existed prior to marriage. 2 hours later, he replied, Everyone knows it was my grandmother's ring. My mother and sister will testify. Her response was a dagger. Interesting. We have the Tiffany receipt dated 2019. Serena purchased that ring as a 5th anniversary gift. Also, your grandmother is alive and living in Florida. Should we depose her? Silence for 3 days. Then Jared posted a dramatic public rant on social media accusing me of stealing priceless family artifacts. Within hours, comments flooded in. Didn't you say that ring was new in 2019? Your grandmother is literally alive, Jared. Dude, we were at your wedding. No heirloom ring existed. He deleted the post 4 hours later, but screenshots are immortal. Divorce. Over in 9 months. 9 months after my escape, the divorce finalized. Jared received the house, the mortgage, his car, the drained $35K he took, his total win, a building he couldn't afford, and a car he could barely fuel. I kept my salary, my offshore accounts, my premarital investments, my post-separation earnings, my freedom. It was the cleanest escape imaginable. Life in Australia. I found myself waking up early just to watch the sunrise. I joined a local running group, learned to surf, volunteered at a marine cleanup. I slept through the night for the first time in years. And 5 months in, I met someone. His name was Elias. a marine biologist studying coral restoration. We met at a Saturday beach cleanup, both holding trash bags, both joking about ugly seaweed. He didn't flinch when I told him about my divorce, didn't judge, didn't pry. He just said, "Some people chase shiny things their whole lives. You didn't lose anything. He did." We started dating, slowly, carefully. He was the opposite of Jared, steady, grounded, unbothered by appearances. Eventually, I told him the whole story, including the ring. He laughed. "That's Olympic-level delusion," he said. Then he kissed me and asked if I wanted to go diving the next weekend. I realized then, peace isn't a place, it's a person, and sometimes it's yourself. But peace is fragile, and one afternoon it shattered. The past came knocking from 8,000 miles away, and it arrived wearing a backpack and desperation. The knock on my past didn't sound like a fist on a door. It sounded like footsteps on my front steps, heavy, hesitant, and completely out of place in the quiet Australian afternoon. I had just come home from work, still wearing my ID badge and holding leftover lunch when I saw him. Jared, sitting on my front steps like a man who'd been dropped by a tornado. He looked small, clothes wrinkled, hair greasy, eyes sunken with desperation. He carried a single backpack, the kind you grab when you've run out of options. When he saw me, he stood up quickly, forcing a smile that never reached his eyes. "Serena," he said, voice trembling. "Finally, we need to talk." I felt my heartbeat stall. "How did you find me?" I asked quietly. He stepped closer. "I hired someone. Took months. Took everything. I sold stuff. I maxed my last credit card. I took out a loan. And then I bought a one-way ticket." He said it like it was a romantic gesture, like this was a grand reunion. I took a step back. "You need to leave." "No," he said, shaking his head. "No, Serena. Not until we fix this." "Fix what, Jared?" "Our marriage." He said it like the word still meant something. "That ended over a year ago," I said. "You ended it." His eyes flashed. "You abandoned me. You blindsided me. And you stole my grandmother's ring." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Jared, your grandmother is alive." He ignored that. "I know you have it, and if you'll just give it back, we can figure out the rest. Together." He said together, the way a drowning man says lifeboat. Before I could answer, a car pulled into the driveway. Elias. He stepped out, still in his marine research uniform, and instantly saw the tension. He walked to my side and placed a hand lightly on my arm. Jared stared at him. His face changed, something dark sliding across it. "Who is that?" "My boyfriend," I said. Jared's jaw clenched. "He needs to leave. You and I need privacy. This is between husband and wife." "Ex-husband," I corrected. Elias didn't say a word. He didn't posture, didn't puff his chest, didn't step forward. He simply stood beside me, steady, calm, unbothered. That quiet confidence enraged Jared more than any shouting could have. The unraveling. Jared took a shaky breath. "I made mistakes. I know. Talia used me. She fed my insecurities. I wasn't thinking straight. But none of it would have happened if you had paid attention to my needs, if you hadn't been married to your job." My jaw tightened. There it was. The blame. The rewriting of history. "So now it's my fault you cheated for a year?" "I'm saying we both contributed," he snapped. "Marriage is complicated, Serena. You walked away without even giving me a chance to fix it." "You didn't want to fix it," I said. "You wanted to enjoy both worlds." His voice cracked. "I lost everything. My career, the house. My family barely speaks to me." He looked at me with wet eyes. "I have nowhere to go. Please, I came all this way." I stared at him, at the man who once drained our accounts, cheated with a woman he'd called history, and then tried to trick the world with a fake heirloom ring story. "I don't owe you anything," I said softly. "Not anymore." That was when he snapped. "You're a monster," he hissed. "You destroyed my life. You left me with nothing. And now you're flaunting some science man in front of me?" Elias finally spoke, voice calm. "She asked you to leave. You should leave." Jared's face twisted. "You don't get to talk to me. You're nobody. She is mine." Elias stepped slightly in front of me. "Last warning. Leave peacefully." Jared pointed at me, shaking with rage. "You owe me a conversation. You owe me the ring. You owe me closure." "No," I said. "I owe you nothing at all." He started shouting, loud, incoherent, furious. Words blurred with insults. He yelled so loud the neighbor 2 houses down came onto his porch. "You all right there?" the neighbor called. "No," Elias said. "We have an unwanted visitor." The neighbor reached for his phone. "Want me to call the police?" Jared's eyes widened. Panic finally cracked through the rage. No, no, I just want to talk. That's not a crime. You're creating a disturbance, I said. Leave. I can't, he screamed. I spent everything getting here. Then he sank to his knees on my lawn. It might have been sad if it weren't so manipulative. The police arrive. It took them 8 minutes. 2 officers stepped out of the car, calm, professional. I showed them the divorce decree, prior written no contact notices, my attorney's letters, Jared's previous threats, everything needed to make my case airtight. The officers turned to Jared. Sir, do you understand you are trespassing? This is my wife, Jared said desperately. She stole from me. She stole my grandmother's ring. One officer raised an eyebrow. Your grandmother is alive, according to records. Jared stammered. Sir, the officer continued, you need to leave this property immediately. I can't, Jared screamed. I have nowhere to go. The officer looked at me. Do you want to press charges? My answer came instantly. Yes, the arrest. They cuffed him right there on my lawn, in front of the neighbor recording on his phone, in front of Elias, in front of me. Jared screamed the entire time. You ruined my life. You stole from me. You abandoned me. You owe me everything, everything. But as they put him in the car, something inside me settled. Closure isn't a conversation. Closure is a consequence. Deportation. The next day, the station called. Jared was being charged with harassment, trespassing, disturbing the peace. And because he entered Australia on a tourist visa with no return ticket, immigration flagged him immediately. He was placed into deportation proceedings. Australia doesn't play games. 3 days later, he was escorted onto a flight back to the U.S. with a 3-year ban from returning. Epilogue. A week later, Jared's mother called me, crying, embarrassed, apologizing. She told me, Jared sold his car, borrowed money from anyone he could, lied to his parents about just visiting a friend, ignored every warning they gave him. He arrived in Texas with no car, no job, no home, a criminal record, and the same backpack he showed up with. Through mutual friends and public records, I learned he's now living in an extended stay motel outside Houston and working part-time at a fast food place, still telling anyone who'll listen that I ruined his life. But the truth is simple. He gambled everything on the hope that I would still be the woman who once bent over backwards for him. But I'm not that woman anymore. The real end. Back in Australia, Elias and I stood on our balcony one evening, watching the sunset. He slipped his hand into mine. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Actually, I am. In my desk drawer sits the ring, the one Jared lied to everyone about. Not as a trophy, not as revenge, but as a reminder. Peace is expensive, and I finally paid for mine in full.